hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we are super happy to have you here, and we just ask that you bring an open mind and heart to your listening experience and to be prepared to explore vantage points that I'm convinced will help shift or solidify your current understanding of the ultimate nature of reality. While listening, you'll be exposed to inspiring, empowering, and unifying perspectives that I'm highly confident will yield stellar results in your life if you opt to try them on for size. Also, at optimistic.tv, we have officially begun releasing the first few episodes of our new late-night style, consciousness-elevating video variety talk show, Optimistic, which features live visionary art, soul share interviews, retreat guests here at the Mystic Manor, as well as live musical performances. I'm also super excited to announce that we are currently making plans to release the rest of Season 1 on my personal favorite online streaming service. So stay tuned to optimistic.tv to follow the unfolding development of this exciting Optimistic expansion, as we'll be posting more info and release dates there soon. And in the meantime, be sure to check out, of course, the first few episodes at optimistic.tv as well. All right, all you positive heads, welcome. Here we grow again. So grateful to be with you guys on a Thursday this time. Thanks, Erica, for taking over Monday when I was out and about. We did a little swap-a-roo, and so it's nice to mix things up anyway and connect with you guys on this fabulous Thursday. And today I would like to talk about a little bit about an experience that I had recently with someone here at the Mystic Manor. And as those of you who've been listening a long time know, the Mystic Manor is this property where we've shot the new show Optimistic. We're doing retreats up until COVID, kind of on pause with that until things like mellow out a little bit. So one of the things in my pivot to be able to continue having this epic communal magical space that, by the way, if you want to check it out, you can see you can walk through like a virtual tour on optimistic.tv on the Mystic Manor page for those of you who haven't ever seen it. But anyway, so one of the things I did in order to keep this place running, it's like a compound. It's a massive property, and Venice is one of the most expensive places on the planet. So one of the things that I did is start subleasing, as temporary subleasing, since we haven't been able to do retreats. And so that's been really interesting. It's been an adventure I didn't really plan on. Life's what happens when your plans don't work out. And it's been pretty awesome for the most part. Obviously some challenges when you've got a property with 9 spaces essentially, rooms and everything that, different places that have been converted where people can have their own private space. And so that has certainly led to some experiences that I didn't count on. Most of the people I've ended up here, through the transformational community, festival community, friends of, that sort of thing. There's been a couple of people certainly a few people that I didn't know prior. And one of them who came in, very interesting. You think about these sorts of recipes for karmic things to play out, and there's certainly been some of that here and there. And one of the people that came in recently, after they got here, I started seeing all of these parallels with like my child's mother, like almost the same last name. Some of the things that they were saying, you started to see like, oh, this person's, learning. Someone else then shared with me what they knew about her and her story. And it's like, I'm like, oh man, I've got my hands full with this one. I didn't fully foresee the intensity of the character that's going to be here. And so, nonetheless, it was great, and definitely their mental perspective, not what you'd call, in the box. Certainly some would think maybe there could be some psychological things going on there. Certainly some, a lot of times it's like shamans talk about, I've heard it said that, or indigenous people, when they go into like a mental hospital, they see people that are having an awakening. And that's the kind of thing, with my child's mother, some of you have heard me talk about. She had a full mental break for like a decade, and now she's kind of back, and which we really never foresaw coming. And she said a lot of it was she felt like was like spiritual centric. She was confusing realities, and I think there's a lot of that sort of thing that goes on out there, and it gets labeled as schizophrenic or whatever, right? Psychosis. And so this person, if you were to meet them, and after you get to know them a little bit, you're like, okay, they're operating on a different frequency and can be really intense sometimes. And I'm thinking, okay, this probably isn't a perfect long-term fit, but be loving and kind. And this person is really loving and kind most of the time too, and shown a few potentials to get flared up though, and get really, agitated. And we saw this a couple times where it's like, oh man, I hope there's no outburst, and you're dealing with someone who maybe psychologically is not, quite on a what you would call a normal frequency, if there is such a thing, right? And so anyway, short story long. So she brings someone in that, she turns out she had spent time experiencing homelessness years ago, we learned. And this is a person that she spent time with during that period. Now, I had already had a very stressful day, a lot of things just bombarding, and then here she comes, this kind of complete handful of a roommate with, here's my husband or whatever she's referring to him as, that, and they experienced homelessness together at some point, from what I understood. And I just was not in the mindset to really want to receive or deal with like, oh my gosh, here's another person being dragged in here. And, what's the mental, it's one thing to have a woman who's, maybe mentally challenging you a little bit with their perspective and way of being. And then you bring in a guy and it's like, oh gosh, I don't want a dangerous situation. Like fear started arising. Like, who is this? And I said something to her. So I pulled her aside and said, look, you can't just be bringing people in here to stay. Because she made a comment like he was going to stay there. And I'm like, oh, God, no. It was my knee-jerk reaction. And I was like, look, you can't just bring people here to stay. And she just kind of, it's the first time she really like flared up at me, like, and it was just like such a sinking feeling, and it wasn't exactly calm or super rational and, super agitation. And I'm sitting there with the rest of the folks here at the manor going, oh God, what do I do? And she's just, saying some things that were wild and not, not comforting to think about being in your home. Right. And so I sat with it for a little while, and then, I started thinking about it more and more. And over an hour or so, her and her friend were in the hot tub, and I went out there and just talked to them with love. And I'd kind of calm myself down. I de-escalated the fear within me. And I was like, look, at her core, she's good. Yes, this is maybe not going to be a long-term fit. And while it's happening, this person deserves love. And yes, they just acted very irrationally, but that's part of the psychological stuff they're dealing with. How do I de-escalate it? And so I set out with that intention to de-escalate it. And, it was really a beautiful moment, actually. The guy that she had brought home was in the hot tub, started crying, like, because he had felt rejected. As soon as he walked in, yes, he was very quirky. Yes, he had that energy of like, not, super buttoned up, and someone you'd look at and say, okay, this person experiencing homelessness. Yep, I believe that. I can see that. I can feel that. And yet there was a beautiful soul there when I actually started talking to them both. And she just like started, was so happy that I came. And, whereas moments and earlier she was like super aggro, she's now being super loving. Him and I really just saw myself in him. And of course, how I think. I'm like, oh, this is another me in another time, going through this, whatever he's been through, who knows, right? And so I went from, moments earlier feeling fear and like, oh my gosh, this could be a battle and I'm going to have to maybe get, the police involved to get her out of here. I don't, all the thoughts are racing. And by going out and, after taking an hour or so and then going out and talking to them and being in a heart-opened, loving space, it just totally walked away where they were, one thing's for sure, I did not feel threatened. They may have been quirky and different, and there's some psychological things going on there that I'm not dealing with or the average person isn't dealing with, and I didn't feel the least bit threatened by it. Is it ideal of what I wanted to be around? No. Is it the medicine maybe that I needed to grow? Apparently so, right? And so, I really took on that open-hearted approach, and I thought about how would I have dealt with this years in the past. I would have probably fought tooth and nail, and who knows where I'm now would be rolling in the mud with someone who maybe isn't scared for things to get really dramatic and weird, right? Like might have been outmatched when it came to escalating. So I really set out to de-escalate the situation, and I set out to understand the person and validate the person, even though once again, I was seeing things from one standpoint. How do I give them the benefit of the doubt? How do I deal with this? What would love do now? And it was a challenging situation to do it in, and I feel so good now. It's totally diffused. He has. I haven't seen him around, but even if he is, he's like this. He was actually like the sweetest soul, and it was funny to watch too how the other roommates were sort of reacting off of, if I had taken it a different route, they were ready to get up in arms and fight and drag them out of here or whatever had to happen, and as soon as I took it a different direction, it's like the problem evaporated. And what a powerful lesson, right? And I'd seen a quote a while back that I thought about with her. Even her anger, she reacted really angrily and, unhinged and a little scary. And he was, really hurt and acting weird and strange. And, but the quote that I saw, I sat with my anger long enough until she told me her real name was grief. And I think that's such a beautiful quote. That's really what they were both experiencing. They were feeling rejected, and we're different, and we know we're different, and you're, snobs looking down on us, and screw that, and that whole thing. And there was grief there. And as soon as I came and was loving to them instead of a rejecting energy, all the troubles melted away. And so, yeah, and some lessons learned too about, making sure, because, the thing about the situation is this is a big property. It's a very communal space. I wouldn't have said it's my ideal to have a bunch of roommates, but it's something that I've chosen to do to maintain and be able to keep this place. So we can do retreats again one day. So I do have the epic studio to film season 2 of Optimistic and all those things. So, what has it created? A training ground for growth in ways that I maybe would not have foreseen. And wanted to share that story. And then it got me thinking, I've heard in over the years, from different people, how to de-escalate someone and what a powerful tool that is to understand. So I found the short clip by Dr. Christian Conte, Conte, on his YouTube page, and it's called How to De-escalate Someone. And so I was checking it out, and it was like definitely some of the things that I actually did in this case that helped. And so I'm going to play that now, and then we'll talk about it a bit more. Take a listen.
What's up, everybody? So I specialize in working with people who have been convicted of violent crimes, and a question that I get pretty often is, how do you de-escalate someone? So in this video, I'm going to give you 3 quick keys on how you can de-escalate just about anyone. So stay tuned. So when people are angry, it's scary. It can be really scary to be around someone who's out of control. And when people seem to be out of control, the question becomes, how do we de-escalate that person? And I have 3 quick steps for you to follow. The first step, and now I really want you to follow me on this, is to validate that person. What do I mean? Here's what I mean. By validating someone, you are simply acknowledging how that person feels. In other words, if the person is fired up, angry, you're acknowledging that. Hey, you seem really fired up right now. Listen, depending on your vocabulary, your vernacular, and how you want to say it, that's all on you. But how it comes across is that it needs to be about validation. It needs to be about recognition of how the other person feels. Look, people might be right or wrong for their actions, but nobody is right or wrong for how he or she feels. So, if someone is angry, they have a right to be angry. If people feel hurt or sad or mad or glad or happy or whatever they feel, they have a right to that. So, when someone's out of control, they have a right to feel that way. Now, we want to try to help them regain control, so the first step is to validate them. Validate how someone feels, no matter where they are. Now, I want to take this a step further, because oftentimes people believe that validating someone means, oh, hey, wow, you seem really fired up, and that's enough. That's not enough. We don't validate someone until we think they've been validated. We need to validate others until they actually feel validated. And here's how we can tell if someone feels validated. When someone's angry and fired up, they're emotional. It's a visceral, it's a physical reaction. But when the person feels validated, as though he or she has finally been heard, then there's a release. And when you see that release, then you can move on to step 2. Step 2 in de-escalating someone is to help people find options. In other words, there's always a choice. In everything we do, we always have a choice. And someone who's out of control still has a choice to act however he or she wants to act. But what we want to do is help that person explore what those options are. In other words, once we've validated that person, and once that person feels like, all right, okay, I feel heard, I feel understood, now we can explore options. There are options. Look, you can do that thing, which is that out of control thing that you were impulsively thinking about doing, and that is an option, but let's explore the consequences of that option. Now, once we explore that consequence of that option, which again, that's viable choice because that's what that person was obviously feeling and thinking. Once we explore that, now we can move on to other options. Now you could do that, or we could step back, we could walk away, we could think about something else, and that's when we can start to pull in our ideas. You see, when we're really heated up, we only see things in a very narrow-minded way. But when we step back, we can see a bigger picture. So when someone's fired up, they're very singularly focused on whatever it is that they're angry about. We have a macro vision, right? They have a micro vision, we have a macro vision of the situation because we're not emotionally involved. So we can help them explore a wider range of options. And again, if the person feels heard, then he or she is much more open to actually listening to those options. And once you validate someone, once you help that person explore options, you're ready to move on to step 3. Step 3, now follow me on this, you might want to slow down the video. Most important step you can do, it's allow for choice. In other words, people always have a choice in anything that they're going to do, so you recognizing their freedom of choice and you genuinely and heartfelt give them a chance to say, hey, listen, whatever you choose is on you, okay? I'm here with you, but whatever choice you make, that is your choice, and I respect your free will. So we're validating the person, we're helping them find other choices, and then ultimately we're letting go. We're respecting their free will. And if you've ever been around someone who truly accepts you, who truly, genuinely, unconditionally accepts you for whatever choice you make, one of the things that you'll notice, or one of the things you have noticed if you've ever been around that is, you have no desire to fight for your position anymore, because this person is going to accept you no matter what. So now you don't have to fight to defend whatever irrational position you had. Now you are free to really explore the more effective, healthier, more compassionate, more rational choices. And when you can do that, now you're in a better spot to not only be de-escalated yourself, but to be able to make the best possible choices. So from the flip side, from the person who is de-escalating, from you, the person who tuned into this video on how to de-escalate someone, what you're doing is you're making a person feel emotionally safe enough to be able to say, look, I'm a human being. Yes, how I felt was super out of control. Maybe some of the things I've said or done are really just inappropriate and wrong, but now I can't change the past. And I am here in this moment. And so now the question is, what can I do from this moment forward to truly de-escalate someone? You validate them. You help them figure out other options. And then you provide a safe enough emotional space that you respect their free will to choose whatever they're going to choose. And I promise you, when you do steps 1 and 2, step 3 provides a whole different outlook than what would have happened had you not done the first 2 steps. This is one of the most effective ways you can de-escalate someone in any situation. Regardless of whatever you're dealing with, I'm certainly sending you much peace.
Before we continue on with today's episode, I'd like to take a quick moment to tell you about our new sponsor, KiwiCo. With everything going on in the world, there are more kids than ever learning at home these days. And KiwiCo can basically deliver a science fair right to their door. KiwiCo has an incredible amount of highly creative, do-it-yourself projects for all age ranges. As a huge music fan since about 12 years old, I personally would have loved building the real working light-up speaker and headphones when I was just starting to jam out. As a parent now of a grown-up kid, I wish I had had something like KiwiCo when my son was small, because I remember how hard it can be to find creative and new things to keep him busy and challenged on his own or to tackle together. And not only do they have different crates for kids of all ages, but they send one every month. Now, of course, there's no commitment and you can pause or cancel anytime you like. KiwiCo truly is redefining play with hands-on projects that build confidence, creativity, and critical thinking skills. They have something for every kid or kid at heart, and the best part is all UP heads can get your first month free on select crates at KiwiCo.com/positivehead. That's KiwiCo.com/positivehead. So yeah, big one here, validating the person. That's when I walked out of the hot tub, that's the first thing that I did, was validating who they were. Instead of them feeling marginalized and looked down on, validating them. And it doesn't mean you agree, but it really, when you can say, I hear you, I hear what you're saying, I'm receiving your perspective. Doesn't mean you agree, but now you open up someone to say, okay, I feel heard. Now that I feel heard and feel validated and someone's actually hearing me, because that's really, at the end of the day, guys, everyone just wants to be heard. And you don't, I think it's a misconception that in order to really show that you hear someone, you have to agree with them. And that's not the case at all. So once you hear someone, what you'll find is then it opens them up to actually hear you too. What you're doing when you do that is you're removing the energetic wall, the block between you. What's happening when no one wants to validate the other person? Acknowledging their perspective. And of course, everyone is acting rational based off their view of the world and their situation. When you are doing that, you are now it's literally like taking the walls down. So now and that's both ways. Now they're in a place energetically where they can hear you too. And then you can move into helping people find options. And, you probably heard it before. If you're angry, you can't see all the options clearly. You become myopic, and a lot of your brain processing power. I actually should have looked it up. But there's scientific studies that show what happens when you're in a state of anger. Like, you literally are not functioning the same way, and you're not seeing things as clearly. And so especially if they're in that state and you're not, understand, hey, right now they're in that state and their judgment is clouded. And if I'm not in that state, I can see a wider range of options. So how do I de-escalate? How do I help them validate that I hear what they're saying? How do I help them find options? And then, the biggest one of all is letting go of needing them to choose the option. Hey, it's your choice what you want to do. I respect your free will. I'm unattached. And the more you can bring that calm, cool, collected energy, the more you can make things non-controversial, the better. A lot of times people are so quick to roll in the mud and fight and push back. And the more you de-escalate, the less you make it controversial, the more the whole situation, all the blockages can dissipate. And this is such a powerful tool to, I challenge you to start approaching it, your habitual relationships, that you have with your kids or your partner or your parents or your family members or your coworkers or whatever. A lot of times we get into these habitual interactions where we're constantly, time to fight. They're luring me into a fight, and I'm going to push back. Escalate. Okay, push, and we escalate things together. I think of me and my brother, how much we've escalated each other over the years. And now, what's the really sexy path, the path of least resistance? Instead of fighting, how do I de-escalate? Make that the sexy choice, the art form. Approach it from that way. You win if you de-escalate it. You don't need to be right. Sometimes we just fight and fight. Would you rather be right or be happy, right? You don't have to always shove your viewpoint down the other person's throat, especially if they're in an agitated state, because they can't hear it. They can't receive it. So you're really just throwing fuel on the fire, right, when you do that. Well, guys, I hope this helps to bring some calm, cool, peaceful interactions in your near future. When things you see, it can go in an escalating path, you're going to remember this episode and you're going to validate the person. You're going to help them find options. You're going to allow for choice. You're going to make it your aim to bring things down and to take down the blocks between them. Open your heart. The more you can open your heart in those moments, that is the true power. That's truly, if you want to win, that's how you win. And the great thing about that is everyone wins with that sort of love-centered approach. With that being said, I have a song by Rue Paynes here, A Year in a Garden. Some of the lyrics made me think, or actually this song was playing in the background when I was sort of bulleting out a couple of things I wanted to touch on here. And I'm like, of course, this song is speaking to some of this very topic from my way of interpreting it. So hope you enjoy. Till next time, journey well. Love you so much. Also, before we cue up today's song, I wanted to remind you about the game with the universe on our website, where you can choose the first number that comes to your mind and it'll pull up that episode number of the podcast. I've been saying this is a great way to co-create synchronicity and magic with your higher self for quite some time. And if you go to positivehead.com/universe, there is a super fun and simple interface to play this game with your higher self. I firmly believe just by setting the intention to play in this way, it opens up the door for magic, and it's a synchronistic way to hone in on nuggets of wisdom out of the huge catalog of episodes that are specifically appropriate for you at this time in your journey to becoming the next greatest and greatest version of yourself. And it also makes for a super fun way to spark the curiosity of friends and family by having them choose a number, so they'll hopefully go and check out their number as well, which I greatly appreciate because it helps us to spread the word about the podcast. Once again, the address is positivehead.com/universe. And as a quick reminder, if you're curious to learn more about Purium superfoods and why I take them almost every day, be sure to also check out positivehead.com/transformation. On this journey of becoming the next greatest and grandest version of ourselves that we have all embarked upon, I cannot stress the importance of managing your physical vibration enough. And quite honestly, Purium has put together the simplest plan I've found to do so. I have my favorite, the Appleberry Shake, at least 5 times a week. Once again, to learn more about the Purium transformation, go to positivehead.com/transformation. Or if you want to keep it simple and just try out my favorite, the Appleberry Shake, you can go straight over to ishoppurium.com and be sure to use code positivehead for 25% off. I'll spell that for you. It's ishoppurium.com, and be sure to use your positivehead 25% coupon code.
I spent a year out in a garden, soon grow again, to learn my ground, to feel your love, turn every breath into a gift and every journey to a lesson in the end. Saw things I'd heard of but never known, felt I was hunted by a glow. And I found beauty lay beyond the veil of vanity. Oh, and it was on my doorstep all this time. It shall be yet, it shall be yet. There will be dancing on my streets. Not long from now, it shall be yet, it shall be yet. Oh, I'm already off my feet, singing I will see you on the other side. Oh, and this will be my battle cry from life. Oh, so I will take you with me. Yeah, your heart, mind or soon. I took a dive and came up on the other side, so alive, so alive, so alive. It shall be yet, it shall be yet. There will be dancing on my streets. Not long from now, it shall be yet, it shall be yet. Oh, I'm already off my feet, singing I will see you on the other side. Oh, and this will be my last ride from life. Feels like things are looking on, or feels like things are breaking through. Oh, and it's all because of your reason. Seems like things are looking up, or feels like things are breaking through. Oh, and it's all because of